Guys, my name is Juliana, and today I will be talking about the physics of whale communication. So, the reason that I chose this topic is because of my love for animals. Those are all the animals that I have at home. I used to have more, but they're dead. So, this is my dog, Takashi. This is my other dog, Mishka. I have a gecko here, and I have this other a bearded dragon, which is another type of reptile, and I love them very, very much. Why not relate this project to an animal and make it fun and make it interesting into something that already passions me. So that's why I chose the whales, because whales are very known to talk through sounds, through waves in the water. And up until now, it's still a mystery about how whales communicate and the sounds they make. And there's a lot of researchers that still try to figure out what the sounds mean. So I thought, why not look at whales in a more physical way this time instead of biologically, and make it more interesting. So I'm gonna just how does sound travel in the water, and I'm gonna start by comparing this with the air. So humans, when they talk in the air, because it's a gas that's in the air, it's gonna be less dense, so the molecules are gonna be more separated. So when we talk, it's less efficient because the wave loses energy, and because the molecules are less dense, less close to each other, it's harder for it to travel in a longer distance, and it's gonna lose energy due to that. Meanwhile, in the waves, in the medium of the water, it's way, way more dense. According to my research, water is 800 times more dense than in the air. And you can see in this picture that I added here, the molecules are way more compact, way more close to each other. So when the wave travels through it, as you can see in here, there's little places where the wave is traveling. So it jumps from molecule to molecule. So it starts like compacting them so it can travel through it. So it makes it that it loses less energy if they're more close to each other. So sorry, as you can see, in here there's little pieces of the wave that's traveling. And so because of this, it's just way more efficient to send a sound through water than through air. Actually, the speed of the sound is the speed of the sound in waters is 4 times faster than in the air. So this is just to tell you how better it is to talk through water, because it would be way more faster to communicate through the water. And this is actually brings me to my next point, which is communication through the water that was actually even used in World War II, by like the veterans, the soldiers, and their marines, and their submarines. That was very well used because water is just so much more efficient than through air. So it actually brings me to this. So this is called the Sulfur's channel. It's this little range. It's like the sweet spot of like the best place where to communicate. It's like where you get your best LTE to send your message. This is the same thing but in water. So pretty much how it works is that if you're at the specific point in the ocean, um, when you send your wave sound, what it's gonna happen is that when it's gonna travel upwards, the heat of the water that's on top, because the closer you are to the sun, the more the water is gonna get hotter. But when you dive deeper into the ocean, it gets colder. So when the wave travels up, it's gonna get hotter, and the wave likes to bend away from the speed. So if it goes like faster, it's gonna bend downwards. So when the sun goes up, it's gonna get hotter, and then it's gonna get faster, so it's gonna bend downwards. And when you're at the lower bound, so when it starts going downwards, the speed starts slowing down because the temperature starts getting colder. But the water is also influenced by pressure. So the lower you go, the more there is pressure, and the higher the pressure, the faster it goes. So because if the lower you go, it starts going faster. It's also gonna shoot it up. So it's gonna create this moment where you go up, the temperature goes higher, so you go down, and then you go down, the pressure gets higher, so you go up. So if you were to send a sound through the specific like upper bound and lower bound, it's like the specific spot in the ocean. It's gonna make it that it loses less energy because it's trapped between the two bounds, where it doesn't just evaporate into the ocean. It's gonna get pushed up and down and up and down and up and down, and it's gonna make it way easier to reach further destinations, more efficient, less loss of energy. Mhm. And it's actually very crazy because waves use this and they know that this is the sweet spot. They know that this is where they can send their messages and this is where it's gonna um be more efficient for communication. So it's very interesting and like I said, World War II used this a lot, not only to send messages, but the enemies, they know that in the specific sound is where all communication happens. So they will try to be in the same depth of water to try to intercept messages, which is very interesting to know that physics went up to the point of like World War II, and this was all, and even the animals understand this concept that this is the better place to share information. I am now gonna show you my experiment that I did. So just before I let you know, it's very hard to show an experiment in the ocean because I'm not in the ocean and I don't have access to a pool near me. So it's very hard to show how sound could travel through water because I would need something that's enough length for me to show the traveling, and it like through like a little like water bottle is not enough. I would need like a longer space. So because of this, I try to show instead how to um how to how the sound travel through other mediums, and this is what I'm gonna try to replicate in my experiment. We're gonna start with this, which is the like aluminum, like a metal, and it's very thin. So the sound is gonna bounce in the medium and bounce back, and we're gonna see how what she's gonna listen. Spaghetti. So I said spaghetti, and my mom heard spaghetti. So this is very thin, so it worked very well. Um, then we're gonna try with this, which is a little thicker. It's cardboard. We're gonna see if it works. Paper. Paper. So she heard that I said paper. So that seems to be working. Now we're gonna try with this really thick book in here. Yeah. I didn't listen. Good. Okay, we're gonna try again. I don't understand. No? Okay, well, she doesn't seem to get the sound properly through this, so we can already see that it's not really working well through this medium. So now we're gonna try with the pillow, which is known to muffle more the sound. It's finished. Okay, well, she didn't hear anything. We still have to keep in mind that for this experiment, I play with not only the mediums but also the thicknesses, so that could also be influenced by that. I think you could also, for example, try just the book but different thicknesses, so it's technically the same medium but different thicknesses. But for my case, we really did try different mediums because that's what relates more to my project. And I'll be talking about the frequency. So depending on the type of whale or depending on the animal by itself, they're all gonna communicate in different frequencies. So for the sperm whale, for example, they communicate between 10 to 100 hertz. But for the dolphin, it communicates at 150 hertz. So it means that it's a way higher pitch, the dolphins than in the whales. If we look at our formula here, A equals K times frequency square, we can find out how quickly the medium is going to absorb the sound. So how quickly is the sound going to die? Um, so the K and the K would mean like the properties of the medium. In our case, it would be water. So there's the K has other formulas in there, but it would take into consideration stuff like density and the viscosity of the medium and bundles it up into a constant. Depending on the medium, once again, it changes. Then we have frequency in here, which is just the frequency that the animal produces. So if we look at the whole ensemble, we realize that if a dolphin, for example, has a very high frequency, it's going to create a very high A. And the A means how quickly the medium is going to absorb the sound. So how fast is it going to die? So that's why when a whale that does a very low frequency, low pitch, like 10 hertz, it lasts way longer because it dies at a lower rate than in a higher pitch. So that's why whales, they're able to communicate at longer distances because it dies way less fast, so they can travel way more. Now, this brings me to my last point, and it's the echolocalization, which is also linked to the frequency. So, when the wave produces a sound, produces a type of frequency, if it bounces on an object, it's going to bounce back. This is called the echolocalization. So, depending on the intensity of the frequency, we can find, um, depending on the Okay. Now this brings me to my last point, which is the echolocalization. So, when a wave produces a sound, it produces a specific frequency. If it does interact with another object in the ocean, let's say a fish or a rock or whatever, it's gonna bounce back towards the animal. That's the point of echolocalization, is that the sound is capable of bouncing back and going back to the animal, the whale, and brings back information. So the information that it brings is, for example, the type of pitch that it's gonna bounce back. Depending on the intensity, on the frequency of the sound, the whales are able to determine how far is the animal, or that specific object, the shape of the object. And this is very important because whales can travel at very dark depths in the water where there is nothing to see. So the sound becomes their literal eyes to traveling and knowing where they're going, finding their food, communicating with their their other members and not getting lost. It's all happening through this specific power, which is the echolocalization. And once again, this was very used in World War II, during the submarines, to find out if there were enemies around them, or if there's like other submarines that they know around them. It was all done through echolocalization. Bats also use it in the caves in the darkness. They produce a frequency, and then it's gonna bounce back on an object, and then they get that information, the type of pitch that it came back, the intensity that it came back, and knowing, and just with that information, they're capable of identifying where the object or the food is situated. So, thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope you guys enjoyed to know how the world of the waves work through a physical point of view. Thank you.